Hello, hello. How's everyone doing today? Hey, Mary. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Michael. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Mary Beth. Thanks for joining us. How are we doing today? All right. Let me get started here. Everybody hear me all right today? Looks like it should be set up properly. All right. And today we've got the penguin. Get this apron on, and we'll do our little intro, and we'll get started. Hey, Connie, thanks for joining us. All right. Hey, Cindy, thanks for joining us. Hello, my name's Adrian. Welcome back to the week 2 of the September kit. And the first week we did our little cardinal here. And the week 2 we have the penguin. And you're going to notice I did something a little differently. I went ahead and placed all of our vinyl cutouts onto the glass. And I did that because we've been making this week, it's quite a bit bigger. And I think it's pretty much like twice the size. So I put all the pieces on there just to make sure we're going to have enough glass for each. And so the green was really the only one that was kind of close, but we still have a decent bit of extra here. So, you know, we've got the watermelon on here, we've got the penguin on here, and we've got the flower on here. And we still are going to have some extra glass. So even with the bigger pattern, we should be all right. So we're going to go ahead and get started for today. We've got all of our glass here pretty much ready to start cutting. Now, of course, we're not going to cut the glass that is not for this pattern, the penguin pattern, so we're not going to need any green. We have one little piece here, and I might even replace this so that we can get it into a little bit of a better space-saving spot instead of way out in the middle of our glass there. And I think this spot will work just fine. So I'm going to get started by separating our glass right here. And of course, we're going to need our Grosing pliers. And thank you everyone for joining, of course. If you're not familiar, or if it's your first time, this live stream is a part of our Stained Glass Mastery community, where we've got tons of free resources, including the patterns that we're going to be using here that you can get for free. We have guides, we've got a good group of like-minded artists who share projects, ask questions, and if you're more experienced, you can help answer questions too. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the video description. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and continue on here. So we've got this piece is the, oops, knocked it right off. This piece is this little foot piece here, and then these are all black pieces on the back side. So with the little tail thing, these are all black, and this little part I have is white, and then all the front parts I've got is white also. So that is kind of the makeup for this pattern, for today. So we're going to go ahead and cut this off. And the way I like to do it is to score with the cutter, nice smooth tension. And then on the back side, I like to just try to tap that score through along that line. Hey, Valerie, thanks for joining. And I'm going to go ahead and switch us over here to our freehand camera. Give us a little bit of a better view here. Now, what I like to do is get these all separated. And when I do that, I will try to cut on the edge of one of my patterns. It'll save me a cut down the line. So that is the way I like to do it so that, you know, when I go to cut this piece, I don't actually break in the middle of this one. So we've got our white pieces separated. We've got our little foot piece there separated. Hey, Bobby, thanks for joining us. Got a good group here today. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm probably going to cut this off through here and then try to cut these off and then try to cut these off. So I'm trying to get as good of a yield as I possibly can here without accidentally breaking into my adjacent pieces. Because we want to save as much gloss as we can. So this is how I kind of find to be the best way to do it. And then our last but not least, I might even see if I can kind of replace this. It might give us a little bit of a better yield. Let's see if I can kind of get it. Just a little bit better. Even though we've got a ton of black glass, so I really don't need to worry too much about saving every last bit, but it is a good practice so that you can, you know, be responsible with your glass usage there. Now this is a pretty curvy cut. Let's see if we can get it in the first try here. And when it starts to kind of separate, I'll just sort of try to pull it apart. And we had a little bit of a miscut here. Let's see if we can replace this or if we're going to have to recut this. Oh, it looks like we might just barely be able to replace this. See how it kind of didn't quite break along our score. Not the end of the world. I think we might just be able to barely use it as is, just with a little rearranging. So we got kind of lucky there on that one. So now I'm going to go ahead and separate this one. And we've got a few pieces that are black that have a few in there. Oh, we've got some. Oh yeah, all the whites are separated, so it's just this one last piece here. And now we're ready to go through and score all of our pieces. This is a pretty simple pattern in terms of the overall, you know, I mean, it's only, what, 5, 6 pieces? Let's see, one little tiny white piece there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces. So that's a pretty, you know, not too many pieces there. Now what I like to do is I like to go through and just score all of the glass and then go back and break them all apart with the Grosing pliers. And I really like these vinyl templates. They just act as a nice sort of guide right up against that glass. Up against the glass cutter. You can just run that cutter right up against it, and it'll give you a pretty nice close shape there. Starting to get a little bit of shards there. I'm going to go ahead and get our little table brush and get this swept off. And then we will continue on here. Now this is a pretty, you know, inside curve here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to do one cut on the template. Okay. Then we're going to do another shallower cut in there. And we're going to do quite a few of these. It's going to give us a little bit of a better chance of not breaking this in a way that we do not want it to break. So I think it might work out like that. If not, we're going to have to give it another shot, another piece. Okay, got that piece ready. That one's probably going to be the hardest one. The rest of these curves are pretty gentle. I am going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Just do a few more steps. And what I like to do is sometimes take my stabilizing hand that's not holding the cutter, and I'll just push it along through with my, that thumb. That will help me to keep a nice, pretty smooth, even tension all the way through. You want to try to avoid stopping and starting in the middle of the score as much as possible. Just pushing this all the way through. And we'll do a few more steps. There we go. Got it. So those are pretty simple. This one, we kind of cut 2 of the lines when we were separating it. So that's why that one is pretty close to our vinyl template. And Mary Beth asked if I ever use a ring saw. I personally don't. I try to avoid it because it's not as, beginner friendly. It's kind of an expensive tool. So that's why I personally just try to not, have to do cuts where you need that tool, especially not for these, sort of beginner kits. And the other thing is for our studio, try to avoid the need to use something like that, because if you need to use a ring saw, it's possible that piece is not going to be very stable. So the same way when you go to break glass, like this is kind of the most unstable part. Well, I can still get that with the glass cutter, but if this was kind of a really weird thing, or it came to a corner or something like that, then there's a good chance that over time, especially if it's a bigger stained glass window, that it could break along that weak point, especially if it's sort of installed into like a building. Now, a tiny little project like we're doing here, you're not going to have that problem. But, when we're talking about church windows, they're quite a bit bigger, and, the pressure is sort of distributed throughout it. So, from gravity and all that. So you're going to want to avoid having to make cuts with something like that for that reason. And Valerie asked, do I ever use running pliers or always the Grosjeans? Personally, I like the Grosjeans. The running pliers, they are good, but in my opinion, not as versatile. So I take that back. We do use the running pliers to cut like big sheets. Of course, we're not going to use the Grosjeans for that. You can either kind of cut it and then sort of separate it on the edge of your table, or you can kind of just bring the sheet off the edge, kind of like that, and then use the score line right on the edge. Use the running pliers, right on the score line, on the edge, and so that's really the only time I'll normally use it. I just personally find that the running pliers, especially on a lot of these weird shapes, they're not going to be as useful. You're going to end up reaching for Grosjeans a lot anyway. So personally, I kind of don't use them too often for that reason. I do have a pair here, I think. Yeah, I do have a pair right here, just in case I need it. I mean, it's just, you know, maybe I could try it on something like this. So it did kind of break off wrong a little bit. See that? Kind of hard to tell. Let me see if I can show you on the close camera over here. See, it kind of broke off wrong a little bit. So I personally just feel a little bit more comfortable with the, but we're going to keep that. It's not so bad that it's not going to be usable. Yeah, I just personally feel a little more comfortable with the, you know, the grosers. But if you're cutting a little bit simpler shapes, I think you can get away with the running pliers and it'll probably be a little bit faster. But for what we're doing here, they're not super useful. Okay, now we're kind of cutting this, or we're separating this glass. This is one of the ones where we did our little step down. Now something like this, we might be better off to kind of grind it down if we want to keep that little tip. I'm gonna grozier it down. Oh, look, see, the little tip broke off. We're gonna go ahead and keep it, but if you wanted to try to keep that little tip, you can just grind it down into this area, and you'll have a little bit better luck than I did. But that's going to be covered with solder no matter what, because the foil will kind of overlay that. So it's not super critical. And this is why I like to do all of the scoring first. You see it's building a huge mess every single time we go from piece to piece. So that's why you know, you have to be sweeping up after every single one. Whereas this way, you really only need to sweep up if you need to do another supplemental score line, which does happen, but it's not like you're sweeping up after every single piece. There we go. Okay. And if you don't get it perfect, it's okay. We are going to go back and use the grinder. But so far, so good. Here's another piece that's going to be a little bit of a difficult one. We did a bunch of these little step downs here. Just taking these down nice and slowly. This is going to be the kind of the weakest point here, right, in this curve. Now for this one, I am using the mini groziers. So I've got the normal and the mini. They're good for these inside curves because the normal groziers, see, they end up, let me loosen these up a little bit. They end up picking up a little bit too much glass when you're trying to do this curve. So the minis are a little bit more useful for that purpose. There we go. Making pretty good progress here. Gonna have a decent bit of grinding. It is a little bit easier to handle the pieces when they are a little bit bigger, but it does require a decent bit more grinding, foiling, and burnishing. So that is something to consider with the newer, bigger patterns. And we are getting away with them with the amount of glass as before. So I'm going to maybe give this a try on the next few. I think the older kits we're going to leave as is with the smaller patterns. And the next few we're going to see what we can do with the bigger patterns. What I'll probably end up doing is as the as we finish them. And if I need more glass, maybe one color, I might just sell the kit with one extra sheet, you know, going forward with the bigger patterns. So if you do purchase the kit before we do the video, it'll come with the smaller patterns and all 4 glasses like normal. And if you purchase it after the videos are done, I'll know how much glass is needed for the bigger patterns. And we'll sell them with the bigger patterns with, you know, an extra sheet here and there if needed. Like for this particular month, I probably would add in a second green glass because it is pretty close. You know, we kind of barely are having enough. And if you make a few more mistakes than I did, you know, it could be a problem. So that's kind of the reason why for this month I'm going to include a second glass, green glass. Because quite a few of the patterns use it, the watermelon, the cardinal, and the little flower. So that is kind of what we're looking at. That's kind of the plan. So we were able to kind of slowly but surely just chew out those little pieces. So we got our pretty deep inside curve there. And this is our last piece. This is the little sort of along the neck area. If you kind of look at the penguins, they kind of have that little white spot in their neck area. Okay, now this I'm probably going to cut a little bit because I'm trying to save that little tip there. So I'm going to do at least one straight cut. That'll give me just a little bit more leverage when I'm trying to remove the glass. There we go. Got all of our pieces cut. Now we need to do some grinding. We're going to go ahead and clean our area off. Get all that pokey glass out of the way. And we're going to bring out our grinder. And I am going to kind of modify this so it doesn't shake around in the other view. There we go. It needs to be a little bit higher. Put this for next time. All right. Just get everything kind of cleaned up. Let me go ahead and sweep off a little bit more. There we go. All right. Now we can kind of switch over here to our other spot. Let's see, there we go. I think that should pretty much do. Of course, we need our little water bottle as usual. I want to move this microphone. There we go. Okay. So we've got our little spray bottle with a little bit of water. I'm going to kind of cover this stuff up over here. And we are going to get started grinding all our glass. So if you have any little black area or, you know, glass showing around the perimeter of the template, you can just grind it down. And this works out really well, especially for opaque glass. Now, if you did not want to buy the vinyl templates, you can print out the pattern and you can cut it out and you can kind of glue the glass or the little paper onto the glass. That is one option. And sometimes if the glass is transparent, you can cut the glass right on top of the right on top of the little pattern, especially if you have like a light table. Now, a lot of this glass is very opaque and you're not going to be able to do that. Now, what I am going to do, I do have this little 1/4 inch grinding bit here. I'm going to go ahead and finish all my grinding with this bit, and then I'm going to switch it out. And I've got a little bit to do right here. What I'm going to do is mark that so I don't forget. I'm going to mark that. And we are going to have a few spots where we're going to need to kind of do that sort of grinding. So we're going to keep track of that. Oops. Throw a little more water onto our little sponge here. Got another piece here. We need a little bit more from the 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna, oops, try to mark that if I can. And it'll be pretty obvious when you see all the pieces. A lot of little glass sludge kind of accumulates from this. And I've had really good luck using these patterns with the pieces fitting together well. So it's a pretty good option, especially for a beginner. Kind of takes a little bit of the guesswork out and a little bit of the skill, having to really cut everything so perfectly. And Mary Beth mentioned that she has a printer-friendly vinyl sticker and cut out the pattern. Printer-friendly vinyl sticker and then cut out the pattern. Gotcha. Yeah, so that's another good option if you want to get those sheets of vinyl, print the pattern on there, and then just cut it out with some scissors, something like that. So you can avoid having to glue them onto the glass. I imagine that the vinyl will probably stick a little bit better, especially during the grinding, than something like a, paper. So that might be one advantage to using the vinyl. whether you buy it pre-cut or if you print it on a sheet and then cut it out. I think the vinyl will probably work better for you most of the time. And of course, after we grind them, I like to put them in little glass baths, trying to keep the glass on the edges from solidifying. That way when it comes time to clean them, it'll be a little bit easier to get that done. Got just a few more pieces here to do. And I think everyone likes penguins, so this I thought would be a nice subject for a video. And I like to just go ahead and do another round after I finish the down to the template, and that helps to make it fit just a little bit better. At the end of the day, everything we're doing here is by hand. It's not like we have a machine cutting the glass and everything. So if you give yourself a little bit of extra kind of room for error, it's going to help you out in the long run. And it's still going to look just as good. And Mary mentioned that she makes Christmas ornaments and puts them on the packages out of stained glass. Very cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, hey, Mary Beth, too. I believe that you were one of the winners last month, and I don't have your email for the giveaway. And I did send you a message in the Stained Glass Mastery community. So if you will respond to me with your email, I can send you that gift card code. And for anyone who's not familiar, in the Stained Glass Mastery community, we do a monthly giveaway, and it's given away to the top 3 people that are interacting in the community via liking, commenting, interacting with other people in the community. So if you wanted to get a chance to win those free gift cards, all you have to do is join the community and interact. And you are automatically entered every single month. The top 3 people are I send them the free gift cards. So if you're interested in that, that's another kind of fun thing we like to do. So now I do want to get this little grinder bit swapped out. Now, I know last time I for sure had my little Allen wrench, and it came in handy. It was exactly what we needed at the moment. And I'm hoping I still have it somewhere. Surely it couldn't have gone too far. It is one of those things, though, you really never know what I could have done since last time. And it's not immediately popping out at me. Let me see here. Make a little bit of space here. Yeah, I might have misplaced it, so we might not be able to get to swap this out in a super timely manner. Let me just look in one more spot. And before we give up for good, because you just... I think I found it. All right. And we just have a couple pieces that we need to grind down, but we do want to go ahead and do it. Let go of, there we go. All right. Insert our little 1/4-inch bit here. And again, we have just a tiny little area. And what I like to do, turn it on, kind of fill up the sponge right there at the top, and then as I grind it, I'll kind of push the sponge into the bit to keep it kind of saturated. And before you know it, and yes, Valerie, I did use it last week. It was hiding from me. But I did find it. There we go. That's pretty much all we needed. Now, I am going to go ahead and switch it back and then do one quick run through all of the edges, and then we're going to stick it into our little glass bath. So that is our plan. Just in case anything got a little bit caked up while I was grinding the other pieces. All right. And Mary mentioned that I should tape it on the back of the grinder. I'll never find it. That's actually an excellent idea. I will definitely do that because you know how it is. Surprisingly, we got lucky today. Okay, so pretty much got all of our pieces here. I'm going to go ahead and start drying them off. And let's see here. Let's see. Okay, looks like we should have everything here. All right. And yes, Bobby, I do believe it is an emperor penguin. But I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about penguins. Now let's see how well these are going to kind of fit onto here. And I'm really kind of making sure to wipe down the edges and then the faces. And then we will put it onto our pattern here. There's the arm, the flapper. I don't know what they're called. Probably just an arm. Or a fin, maybe? No, there's no way it's a fin. All right. That's the little tail. Right here we have one of the front belly pieces. See how well this fits. I think it fits pretty good. This piece has a few rough edges. I'm going to go ahead and just touch it up on the grinder really quickly. It fit together pretty good. It just didn't quite look very smooth like the other piece did. Just wanted to go ahead and make them both look pretty good, because when you put that foil on there, you are going to kind of see that a little bit. And so far, so good for our penguin. I think this piece goes here. There we go. This one's really not too bad, I think. Last week we had quite a few pieces. It was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. About the same number of pieces, actually. I don't know why, this one just seems to be a little bit easier. Headpiece here. And Mary mentioned that the piece by the cheek could be orange or red. They have an orange marking in real life. Ah, that's very interesting. I did not know that. I was thinking about maybe making the beak into an orangish piece. I think they might have an orange beak, but I actually wasn't sure, and I didn't think it would really show up too well. It kind of tapers down to a point. So I was a little worried about it not showing up so well. But I do definitely believe that the little feet are kind of orange. So put a little orange feet there. All right. Pretty much got our penguin all ready to start foiling. So I'm going to put this rag aside. It's a little bit wet. And then as we go through with the foiler, we will kind of just check it over, make sure there's nothing outstanding that will compromise our foiling job here. Go ahead and move all our pieces off the pattern. everything was fitting together quite well, so I'm pretty confident that we're not going to have any problems whatsoever. And we will begin our foiling. We're going to be using the black backing today. Go ahead and snip a little bit off. All right, got our first piece ready for burnishing. And these are all pretty decently simple shapes, so nothing too crazy here. Except for that head piece is probably the kind of the hardest one, I would probably say. And even it's not too bad. At least when it's bigger. Now when we do have these inside curves, I like to take the little fid here and kind of gradually work it down like this. This kind of helps not to get any little tears in there. And this is a fiddlestick fid. I like it. Comes with the Magna Foiler, and I've been enjoying the Magna Foiler. It's been working out quite well, I would say. Pretty happy with it. A little bit of a learning curve, but now, you know, I think that it's pretty much earned a place here. So, try to make sure that if I say something, you know, I like it, that I'm actually using it too. And it definitely is deserving of a place here. And we've got another inside curve here, so I am going to grab the fiddlestick and just kind of work it down. And this is a pretty sharp inside curve and no tears. Yet, anyway. We've got the other side to do still. Let's see how it goes. No tears. Success. Got another inside curve here. And no tears. And you don't necessarily need a fiddlestick fid to do this. You can probably use any fid and it'll kind of have a similar result, I would think. Got another one with a pretty big inside curve here. See if that one makes it all the way. There we go. And again, no rips there. See how the other side goes, no rips. Go ahead and fold this over. And Mary asked, what brand foil am I using? This is an Edco brand that we sell. I believe it's Edco. We sell either Edco or Bonari. So it's been a while since I've grabbed a roll, so I don't remember exactly which brand it was. But I think it was Edco, if I'm not mistaken. I've had pretty good success and results with Edco. I like it. Oops, we did actually have one tear right here. Right at the middle of that. But it didn't happen on the other side, which is kind of funny. So we'll take care of that when we get to the burnishing. We'll do a little repair. And especially when these shapes are really simple, this foiler really shines. You can just run that piece all the way through and you get a really good, even reveal both sides. Really been happy with it. And Bobby mentioned liking a foil made by Mongo, so I'll have to check that out. Never heard of that, Mongos. There we go, no rips on that one. Got just a few more here, then we'll be on to the burnishing. Now this one's got a pretty sharp inside curve there, so we're going to see what happens with that one. All right, we've got... Now this, I'm about 90% sure is going to rip. I'll be really surprised if it doesn't. Hey Ella, thanks for joining us. Don't worry about it. So there's a small rip right there, which is not bad, all things considered. And when we go to burnish, we'll take care of that a little bit further. There we go. Got another piece with a pretty deep curve there. We're going to have to really get that one. actually going to probably start on a different spot instead of on that curve. Bit of a hard time getting it started. There we go. Getting a little bit of this foil backing all jammed up. There we go. So this one's definitely going to get some rips in it. It's just way too sharp not to. Not the end of the world. Nothing we can't repair. And after this piece, we've got one more little piece, just a little white area, sort of in their cheek or ear kind of area. Or at least I don't know if they have ears or where their ears are at. Kind of where a human has ears anyway. And the sides of the head. All right, so we're going to keep this that's all the backing we used. Makes pretty quick work of it. We're going to keep all of this foiler out while we do the burnishing so that we can take care of any little pesky repairs that we need to do. And we are going to do a quick little sweep here. You can hear a lot of little specks going right straight into that trash can, which is where I prefer it instead of into my hands here. That's always ideal. So of course we're going to do the edges first. We'll lay it flat and then we'll do the faces. And we're going to be paying extra special attention to these really deep curves. Alrighty, we got a few little areas we need to touch up. Just gonna cut some foil, kind of overlay it. And then we're gonna burnish this down and kind of cut it to size. And that will kind of remove all of the little rips that we got when we were kind of folding it over. After burnishing, we'll just take our little X-Acto blade and just cut it right along the same sort of crease that the original foil was. And you should get a pretty good kind of know, like a single line of foil. Just take your time with it, because this is kind of where the edge of that solder is going to be. It's going to be really obvious if it was kind of sloppily sort of cut there. So there we go, nicely repaired foil, ready for solder. So we'll go ahead and set this aside. And yep, yes, Ella mentioned that the little specks hurt more than the big cuts sometimes. That is true. Kind of hard to see them, and then if you can't get them out, they'll bother you for a long time. Mary, does the foiler come on the base plate? Yes, it does. The sort of the whole package deal here, and it comes with a little fiddlestick too. And I would say that I do recommend it at this point. It's pretty good. It's less setup than the old foiler. I would say that the old foiler, if you already have it set up with the you know, the foil caddy and everything, that works just as good. Maybe a little bit better in some ways, a little bit worse in others. I would say that it works better in that the smaller pieces are easier to run through it, and some of like the weird shaped pieces can be a little bit easier to run through it also. I would say it's worse in that it's not really a nice finished product. You know, it's not shipped to you ready to use. You have to do some assembly, and so that can be a little bit of a hassle. So if you don't want to kind of DIY that foiler together, then I would say this little Magnafoiler is better. And yeah, Ella, I liked it a lot too. It really does work great. Just as far as trying to get it in the hands of people, if it's not going to be as polished of a system on the front end. But honestly, not a bad option, and I think it would be cheaper too, overall. Sort of a kind of a DIY situation, cutting the 2x4 and screwing down the caddy and all that. But certainly still a viable option. And maybe something we'll bring back from time to time. Had a little chip in here from the glass cutting, but that foil is pretty well adhered. Even though it's kind of a rougher surface to adhere to, you can still get it in there if you just kind of take your time with it. And Valerie asked if I got links for the foilers. I do have links somewhere. I know I'll have to check to see if I've got it in the... I know for sure in the Stained Glass Mastery community there are some links. I can post them in the chat here before the date is up. And Ella mentioned if a 3D printer could print a more polished system for the old system. Yeah, you know, I think you're probably right. I actually thought about that. It was just, you know, so many things going on right now. I know for us, our studio, we've got probably about, let's see, what month are we in? We're in September of 25. We easily have about a year and a half of projects that, you know, with the current capacity of people we've got employed. So that's been keeping me super busy, trying to sort of prototype a product and all that. There's really not in the, I guess, in my bandwidth right now. But it was something I was thinking about, and I'd like to do probably eventually, to be honest with you, because I did like that idea. And making pretty good progress here. another thing you're going to want to watch out for is the start and stop point. Whenever you're doing the overlap, if it's not quite perfect, you might have to do a little bit of trimming on that foil to get them to sort of line up. And I did see a spot right here on this one. I'll put it up on the close camera. We can kind of check that out. Oops, and looks like, oh no, oh, let's see. Yep, I need to do a little repair there. Kind of pushed it a little bit too hard and severed that foil. Yeah, the 3D printing game, it does seem like it could be a fun thing, but to learn how to 3D model on the computer, I mean, it just sounds like a bear of effort, you know? It really does. And I am just really hesitant to get into something new. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Set that one aside. I do actually have one friend that is doing some 3D printer stuff, and I think he uses a program called SolidWorks, and those, I think it's SolidWorks. It might be something else, but I know that those softwares are super expensive too. I mean, probably there's some free ones too, I'd imagine. But yeah, it's a pretty robust ecosystem they're kind of building out with the 3D printers. Oh yeah, laser engraver. Yeah, I've thought about. We've got a sandblasting machine, a media blaster, and it's kind of like the laser engraving, but it's a little bit more labor, I think, on the front end to mask everything off with the vinyl and then kind of peel it back and blast it. Because we get a lot of people, they ask for like, you know, like lettering on cups and stuff like that. It's just, you know, it's not feasible with the media blaster. But the engraver, I was kind of thinking about something like that. But again, it's just another thing, having to, too many shiny objects everywhere. So far, I've been pretty backed up, trying to make sure to make it here every week, get the live stream going, and got some other kind of projects ongoing, sort of working on a lot of stuff, trying to keep it all afloat. But so far so good. Hope y'all are enjoying the live streams here. I kind of have been enjoying getting out a video too every week, you know, from the live stream, so that's been working out pretty good too. I think we're, gosh, it's probably been 20, 25 videos so far. It's been quite a few videos that we've been doing. So I do appreciate everybody showing up and doing the projects, posting the projects too in the community. I really like to see all those. Yeah, definitely not quite enough time in the day. there we go. That's our last piece. We're pretty much ready to start soldering. I'm going to go ahead and tap on our iron. And let's see how it looks with our glass on the pattern. Awesome, Mary. I'm glad that you've enjoyed them, and hope to see you at the live stream today, Ella. And Valerie mentioned that she's got a tabletop saw with an engraver. Works pretty well for small stuff if you have nice writing. Oh yeah, that would be a no-go for me. I've got the worst handwriting. That would be a real skill to be able to sort of do it by hand. It's a pretty simple pattern, but everyone loves the penguin, I think. I don't think anyone has a problem with them. And we can see how well everything fits together. I'm pretty happy with this project so far. Honestly, a pretty quick one. It's only 3:15. Been at this for about an hour, 15 minutes. Last time I think it was at least 2 hours. It was a little bit of a harder project. This one's a little bit easier in terms of the time, at least. And I really like the way it's looking. Let's take a quick look. See how our pieces are all fitting together. Looks pretty good. So I think we're gonna put a little hook right here, kind of at these two. At the joint there of those two pieces. And let's see, I might even see if we can get a decent angle here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get my blue gloves on, my nitrile gloves, trying to keep the chemicals off if I can. Go ahead and turn on our little fume extractor. Kind of move that to the right spot, more or less. And what else do we need to grab here? Probably a heat-resistant glove would not be a bad idea. Let's see what we got here. Mary Beth mentions behind our projects. Son came over to the hospital Thursday. Oh, sorry about that, Mary Beth. Hope that everything's all right with your son. Glad that he's home now, at least. And hopefully you're able to have a little bit of stress relief on this Sunday. And our iron's getting pretty hot already. Go ahead and grab our stuff here. Do a quick little wire brush off here. And we are going to grab out our flux in our little container. Mix that goop all up. And, oops, kind of dripping everywhere. I'm just going to sort of tap some little bits of flux on the joints to get started. And I definitely moved this around a little bit, so I'm going to spend a second trying to put it back in the right spot. Yeah, this came out really good. I really like this project. There we go. That will do. Unravel a little bit of solder, and we'll go through and we go. Got this all tacked together. Now it's going to be a little tricky from the way I put this on here. I have to... get this pattern out of here. We're pretty much done with the pattern. Get the Emperor sort of on the table. And Ella asks if it's real important to tack solder the joints first. Honestly, it's not that important, but the reason why I do it is because I like to put it on the pattern, and sometimes the heat of the pattern can, what's the word? It can sort of melt, that pattern down, and I'm trying to avoid that. So that's why I use the pattern to kind of put all the pieces in the right spot, and then after I get the little joints tacked, soldered together, I can slide that pattern out without messing up all my pieces, and then we can move on to the soldering everything. So really the only reason why I do it is so that we can, or I can move the piece off of the vinyl pattern in case I wanted to do it again in the future. I don't want to ruin that other panel, that other pattern, I should say. So I'm just doing a nice little bead here. I will say, if you don't tack solder the joints, as you're sort of soldering, you might just the force of the iron tip kind of touching touching the adjacent pieces will potentially knock them out of the proper alignment. So that's probably another good reason to tack solder. That's pretty much the main thing I was taught to. Not the main thing, but one of the sort of fundamental things I was taught to. And I think that if you try it out without tack soldering, you'll probably start running into all the reasons why they tell us to do it. So that's kind of probably worth a try just to see kind of if it's really worth it or not. I know that for my case, I kind of have no choice. I've got to do it because I want for the, I don't want to sort of damage the pattern underneath it. And these bigger panels, they definitely use up a little bit more solder, that's for sure. I like to go ahead and put as much solder as I possibly can on these edges. I find that it makes the edge beading just a little bit easier when the time comes. Because you'll already have a decent bit of material on there ready to spread out all along the edge. Oh, okay, I think we pretty much got this first side soldered on the first coat. We'll come back and kind of touch it all up when we're done with this side. Just make sure everything's got a nice amount of flux here. got our try to get this solder looking as good as we can. This will kind of be our finished coat here on this side. Again, just trying to get a nice healthy bead all the way around the perimeter. That'll make that edge beading just that much easier for us. And let's see, Valerie mentioned, I noticed some people feed the solder in front of the tip and others melt the solder on top of the tip. Yeah, I personally, so right now, you know, I've been meaning to grab either a lead-free or a 60-40 solder. I've actually been using 50-50 for a while now. A little bit of a my bad situation. I kind of keep forgetting to grab another roll. And knowing myself, I probably won't until there is an absolute need. Hopefully, after this video, I will put a little calendar reminder. But till that time, we're going to keep using the 50-50. Now, I put the solder on the tip because, to me, it helps it to sort of disperse evenly. Kind of want that nice rounded bead look, and it kind, you know, to me it kind of seems like it's easier on my brain to only worry about where the iron tip is going. I don't have to worry about where the solder is going to, and as long as the solder is sort of becoming molten and coating that tip, it should pretty much go where that tip goes. And where the, you know, wherever the foil is fluxed up. So that's the reason why I kind of do it like that. But whatever works for you, I you know, give it a shot both ways, and do what works best for you. There's really no wrong way. As long as it holds together, you're doing all right. Okay, let's see. I think that we're going to go ahead and put on our little wire. So let me grab the little roll. And let's see here. I'm going to make a little loop. And I think today we're going to kind of mount it inside of this foil run. So I'm going to probably do just one little turn here, and then I'm going to try to shape this to the actual shape of the solder. And we're going to try to tack this on. We're going to try tacking that on as is, and then we can kind of manipulate the wire if we don't need to hold on to it. There we go. So that's tacked on. What I'll probably want to do now is grab a pair of grosiers, because this thing is probably extremely hot. And we're just going to kind of curve this wire to be pretty much in line with that run of solder. And what we're probably going to want to do is just snip it right there. And go ahead and get this one down, and then we'll kind of try to mess with the other one next. So let's see here. What I'm going to do is kind of push it down right here, and then kind of try to heat up the, let me see if I can give you a little bit of a better view than that. There we go. I'm just kind of pushing down with the grosiers onto the wire, and then heating up that little tip of that wire, just trying to heat up the solder beneath it so that it just kind of submerges right into it. You might have to heat up that solder with the iron and then kind of move the wire into the right spot. And then once you've got it in there, take it off, switch the spot with the grosiers. Okay, now that spot of the wire is fully submerged, so we kind of want to do something similar with the rest of this wire, as much as we can. What I'm probably going to do is just heat it all up and then see if we can kind of push the entire thing down into it. Kind of applying force down onto the wire as I heat everything up. I can kind of feel it dropping into that solder. And that's pretty good. We can always do a little bit of a bead on top to kind of round it all over. And now that we have that side all holding on, we are going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm using an 18 gauge wire. Honestly, I prefer the thicker wire though. I have this, so that's why I'm using it. But if you have a choice to buy new wire, I recommend using the thickest one you can get, like a 16 gauge or 14, something like that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut this about right here, the same spot. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to try to heat up all of this copper foil of the solder, I should say. This whole area, just like this, and we're going to kind of push the wire down into it, just like that. And you're going to want to not keep the iron on for too long, because you can, damage the glass. Too much heat can damage the glass. So this is pretty well submerged. I'm going to go ahead and sort of do a little bead on top, kind of cap it off. Try to hide this wire as much as we can. You might not be able to get it completely, but something is better than nothing. Especially if you can kind of see that little wire shape. If you can just round it over with a nice rounded bead, that's better. Okay, so we got that done. Now we need to go ahead and do some edge beading. So what I like to do, I kind of prop the solder up like this. And Valerie mentioned you got a heat crack the other day doing that. Yep, it happens. You got to really kind of move quickly, trying not to, try not to let it get you. Now what I like to do is I like to just tap this edge bead all the way around, because we want to make it ideally as a nice rounded edge bead, much as possible. And if you hold it, it's just going to kind of drip down. So you kind of have to sort of strategically tap it along, keeping a wet edge, and that'll help blend it into the the spot you just did the most. And since we did a really heavy edge bead, we kind of tinned the perimeter, I kind of put a lot of solder down, and we have a lot to work with, so we don't have to keep going back and forth to our roll of solder as much. We kind of have a lot to work with right now. There's not much right here to work with, so oops. And definitely need your heat resistant gloves here. You're gonna You're going to be really in some pain if you don't have them. And the ones I've got, the solder kind of just drips right off of it. So that is pretty helpful. I'm going to actually move this a little bit more over here so you can actually see what I'm doing here. And sometimes the more you mess with something, the worse it gets. So, you know, if something looks pretty good, sometimes it really is in your best interest to let it be. Like that, I think it's Paul McCartney, right? Let it be, let it be. All that stuff. Oh, and definitely be wearing, I like to wear an apron to protect my clothes. And definitely be wearing some sacrificial closed-toed shoes. You don't want the solder burning a hole through one of your toes. Because it gets hot and it will drip right where you don't want it to. So, don't want to learn that one the hard way. You want to listen to what I'm saying. Even I will definitely not try to work without all of this stuff. It's just not worth it. And Bobby mentioned he uses a vinyl fingered garden glove, similar to mine, works well against heat. That should do it. Vinyl's pretty heat resistant. I don't even know what material these are. These are honestly, you know, just kind of some gloves I was able to source pretty inexpensively. And I mean, definitely the heat will catch up, but it's not so hot that I can't hold this thing. So, you know, for what they are, I'm pretty happy with them, and they are definitely worth their weight. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here. What I want to do is take the wire brush, kind of knock off any little loose pieces, if I can. And then I want to do it some solder touch-ups here. Make sure everything is looking good the way I want it to. Go ahead and do this on both sides. I'm just using, I believe, a stainless steel brush here, wire brush, and I've had this one since the inception of our live streams here, so they don't really wear out. It's a good tool to have. There we go, got a lot of those things off. I'm going to take off this little, got a little droplet right there in the end. And it looks like Bobby and Ella both dropped some solder onto some clothes and burned a hole through them. It will do that. We'll do that. Okay. So we've got a few areas I want to touch up. Just kind of remember that the more you mess with it, sometimes the worse it gets. So we're going to try not to do that. And we're going to try to fix some areas that I saw were kind of flattening out. Kind of whenever you heat up the back side, it can affect the front side. That's why I like to do the front last. I'll do it first, and then I'll come back and finish it off last. And we've got a few kind of random little stragglers here. We're gonna melt down, smooth them out onto the Emperor. got a little bit of a flat area here, and I think this will be the last thing that we kind of touch up. And we are pretty much ready to do the patina. Pretty much onto the last step here. So I do hope everyone enjoyed this project. I enjoyed seeing everybody today. It's always a pleasure to interact with everybody. And I really especially appreciate all the regulars and all the new faces here. And we are going to get the soldering iron off. Don't forget that, of course. I'm going to do one last wire brush here, get off any loose pieces as much as I can. Got a few more drips here. And we are going to get out our patina right after we get some of these solder droplets off. Start to create a bit of an uneven work space. There we go. And now for our finishing here. I like to go ahead and grab our rag with some black patina. And we don't need the heat-resistant glove anymore. And thank you all, of course. Really appreciate your being here on this Sunday. We don't have to really overcomplicate it here. I just like to get some patina and put it on the rag and put it on the panel. Nothing too fancy. Since it's 50-50, it really takes the patina. I wouldn't recommend it for typical use because it really does not run as nicely as the 6040. And the lead-free doesn't run as nicely as the 6040, but it is lead-free, so at least you get that benefit. This 50-50, it's kind of the worst of both worlds, but it does patina nicely, so there is that. We're going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up. Make sure to put your cap back onto your patina. You don't want to be knocking that over, making a big mess. This thing all cleaned up. What I like to do is grab a little bit of our favorite blue glass cleaner. Just wipe it down. I like to use my little microfiber cloth. And with that, we are pretty much all finished up with our penguin project for this week. So again, thank you all so much for watching. If you are interested in more of these projects, we have videos on everything you see behind us. And we do a new project every Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, live for you to ask questions. I can even do some live demonstrations if needed. And of course, if you're interested, check out the free Stained Glass Mastery community where we have tons of free guides, a great community, and the free patterns for all of our projects. So again, thank you so much. We will see you next week for the week number 3 of the September kit. Thanks so much. Goodbye.